my own business oftentimes gets put on the way back burner. I have to admit, there's so often that I wake up in the morning and go through my to-do list and I'm at the bottom. And that's something that I think we all struggle with, having to make ourselves our own client. I have a series of clients and they are about 12 clients that I have a regular relationship and 5 clients that I have an annual relationship with that I am helping and working with. And I have to stop sometimes and realize I treat my clients so beautifully and give them my time, attention, and priority. What about myself? So I've tried to envision myself as my own client. And by doing that, I've elevated my status in my own mind to reconcile my own books for my own business, to send out my own invoices in a timely manner, to look at how my tax preparation is coming together. And if I think of myself as a client, I treat myself better. And it's funny, my kids have also said they hear me talking about them almost like I talk about my clients, and I tell them, but if I put you on a status as my clients, then I will give you attention. And so whether it's my son's volleyball game or making sure I help him to do what he needs to do or take attention for my church responsibilities, I have to elevate those parts of my life to be like my clients as well. And when I do that, I find more balance.
Welcome to Today, Plan Tomorrow. I am Auntie Poluka with Hand in Hand Consulting, and this is where we talk about money, not just the math, but the mindset, the habits, and the heart behind how we steward what we've been given. Today, I'm sitting with Heather Putnam, a financial manager who helps small businesses organize their finances, prepare for tax season, and stay compliant with the law. So important. But here's what makes Heather's story unique. She's not just managing other people's money. She's running her own consulting business, and she's doing it all while raising kids. We're talking about books, how to organize your finances and prepare for tax season, business, what it takes to run a successful consulting company, balance, how to juggle work and family without burning out. If you're a small business owner who feels overwhelmed by finances, this conversation is for you. Heather, welcome to the podcast. Let's talk about
Thank
books,
you.
business, and balance.
The interesting thing is, I never thought this is where I would end up, but it was definitely the direction the good Lord wanted me to be. I started out working for big companies. So I got both my bachelor's and master's degree from Brigham Young University, and that I enjoyed was an amazing experience. Getting an MBA, being something that young little me thought, oh, I'm going to go conquer the big financial world. And then I started getting into large corporate America, realizing it wasn't my favorite. I worked for some big companies, some of them that were very cutthroat, and God bless those that are good with that, but it wasn't my cup of tea. Then I got into a company that I adored, which is Disney. I loved going and I appreciated Disney as an employer because I had had some other large companies that were not so enjoyable. So I have to just shout out to Disney as a corporation. They are phenomenal in the way that they really value their employees. I spent 12 and a half years with them and then basically realized that commuting an hour each way, doing a corporate job, and by this point, I had had one child. I was pregnant with twins, and it was not gonna work to keep my sanity together because my husband had a full-time job, and he and I sat down and chatted and realized, all right, one of us will need to be more flexible in order to really put this family first. So when I had the twins, I then changed from being a full-time employee or a part-time employee to being then a consultant. And that's when my consulting career began. I found for me that it worked better. I was a better mom when I was able to work part-time as a consultant and then hire help part-time. Different moms have different balances. When you're in the throes of 3 little kids, some people are a better mom when they're home with them full-time and they're able to give them all their attention. I was a better mom because one of my twin daughters had special needs, still has special needs. She has a birth defect. And I had a lot of immediate needs that needed to be cared for with my daughter. She has spina bifida. And that was a very prayerful decision that I made when I said, Lord, I want my kids to have all of me and the best of me, but I don't know how to take care of her needs and financially make ends meet. So like I said, my husband decided he was going to stay for his job full time. And then I would work. And there were nights I worked until midnight and was up at 5. I'm not saying, ooh, to my own horn. I'm just saying that's what worked for me. So I could hire someone to be home with my other 2 little kids during the day and took my disabled twin to her myriad of doctor's appointments and hospital stays and everything that was involved. So that was the path I feel the Lord really helped me down. I was blessed because I had an education. I had, over 12 years of good, solid experience with Disney that I could then turn into a job that I could be a consultant and work out of my house to make it work and then take the time to be with my family and meet their needs, which were very unique at that time. I got through that stage of my life and continued doing consulting a little, and then more. And then was blessed to be pregnant 6 years later with my fourth. And he absolutely was just a delightful blessing to have. Did not expect to have him. And when I had him with 4 kids, I then realized I needed to make a shift. And that's when I changed from being a consultant with large companies to then consult with small companies. And the reason I did that is that I realized large companies, when you're working with large companies, which, like I said, I've had both a myriad of experiences there, good, bad, and different. You're a lot more at their structure and their schedule. Whereas when now as a consultant for small companies, it's more of a relationship.
Mm.
I know them, they know me. I can come and meet their needs last minute if it's a tearful phone call because this and this and this is going on. Or for me, if I need to go away to my son's volleyball tournament for the weekend and I can't get to their stuff until Monday morning, it's a more fluid and flexible schedule and relationship. And it has blended with me being a mom of 4 kids.
That all sounds like a lot. I don't know why I was surprised by the 4 kids. 4 is a great number. My parents had 4. I happened to be number 2, and they had us actually close within, I think, 5 years. They had all 4 of us within like 5.5 years. So very busy, loud. I can only imagine the environment at home. You mentioned working with small businesses now. Basically, out of a love for your family, out of a love for these kids, you wanted to be fully present, which is so honorable. What does small mean for you for the size of a business?
Small is between 1 employee and 500. I know 500 doesn't seem small to some people, but 500 is about the point when a business then needs to hire internal systems to do the work that I do. So what I do for a business that is extremely small would be 1 to 5 people. Those businesses, I come in and some of them are um, a single person who's a construction worker and does great work and doesn't really want to think about the finances too much. Well, quarterly, I come in and I will do their sales tax for them and I will help reconcile their books. And I will say, hey, this is where you are right now. And a lot of times it'll pull somebody who's a single contractor or something running a very small business doing what they love. Most of the time, they don't want to think about the money side of things. But by me coming in quarterly, I'm able to then take their head out of what it is they're doing, having them look more objectively at their business by looking at their quarterly numbers and be a little more proactive in some of the goals that they have for their business. That's why I love it as a contractor with a small business. I have a friendship with this person. I'm able to then talk about things which money is very emotional. And when somebody starts a business, they don't start a business usually to own a business. They start a business because they're a good cabinet maker or they're a dentist and they want to have a small office, or they are running an investment company with just a couple of employees, but they may be managing millions of dollars, but they don't want to manage their own side of the business. People do what they do because they love what they do. And owning a business to make that happen is kind of a side thing that comes along with it. Some people, they're comfortable with that side thing. A lot of people, most people are not. Feluke, the dangerous part of that is when people then ignore it. So if you're that single person or a company of 5 or 10 people or a company of you really can't ignore it if you can get up to about 25 people and kind of put your head in the sand like an ostrich. Some people run their businesses that way because it's uncomfortable and they don't want to have to really face, what does my business look like? How is it trending compared to last year? What could I do to make it more solvent? But if you're in that range between the 1 and the 25, you can kind of get away with it for a while. It's just not healthy. So that's where somebody like me will come in, and I'm not an employee of their company. So I'm also an objective person. I can then say, looking at their business, you're really enjoying this, this, and this, but you're spending a lot of money in this area. And I'm not saying it to be mean or rude. And I don't have to sit there and say, boy, if I tell my boss that their expenses for meals are through the roof, I might get in trouble. The fact that I don't work for them as an employee, I have to be sometimes the tough love to say, you can do what you want. This is your business, but let's look at where you're spending your money. And you say that you wish you had more money in the bank or more money at the end of the year or more money to invest in growing your business. Then let's look at where your expenses are. So I get to have those conversations, and I actually really like to have those conversations as an outside person because they'll listen to me and they'll go think about it. And then if they want to make the change their business, that's up to them. I'll see them either. Some people, I have a group of about 8 clients that I see once a month. That's actually, if you have a business between 10, 50 people, I would say 10 and 100 people. I highly recommend you have someone come in once a month to analyze your books. They'll reconcile them. They'll take your bank statements. They'll put them against your books. If you're very small, you might be like, I'm not even looking at those bank statements or those credit cards, in which case an outside person will come and bring them in to your QuickBooks is one that I use most of the time, or whatever platform you use, and we'll bring them in. If you're a larger business, say 50 to up to 500, you probably have internal people that are paying your bills or that are putting your credit card information in. But you also need that second set of eyes to then look at them and say, are they going in correctly? What is happening here on a business-wide basis? What are your trends? It is always good as a small business owner to have you not be the only one to look at your books. And if you're a medium-sized business owner, you shouldn't just have your internal person be the only one looking at your books. You also have that risk of having times when somebody the bookkeeper has decided to take a little bit for themselves. And it's as soon as you bring another person in to reconcile your books monthly, quarterly, or at least annually, you then have a check and balance system in your business. I've also had times, I have a dentist that I've recently started working with, really nice guy. He's been doing his own books for 20 years. And he's brought me in because he wants to reconcile them and get the business ready to sell. And I was looking at his books and I noticed a flaw in something that he does. And I pointed it out to him and he said, but this is how I've been doing it for 40 years. And I said, well, that doesn't make it right. It's still wrong. Sorry, but it's not the right way that you should be doing things. And he just looked at me and I asked him, I said, have you ever had anyone go over your books? He said, no. And I thought, you're a dentist and you're a really good dentist, but you should not have waited till the end of your career to bring someone in to look over your books. You should have had somebody, as your business has grown, to just come and make sure you're on the correct path.
And especially when it comes to math. Some people get very creative with math, and I get it. Faith-based, God is good. He provides. But sometimes we do math based on spiritual calculations and what we desire and not necessarily what's actually there. I don't know if that's his situation, but it definitely is helpful to have somebody come in and tell you or show you, explain how to do it correctly. So what is the value? Because I can imagine there's a cost to your services, and you don't need to say what the cost is, but what is the value of having a consultant come in and evaluate the financial aspect of your business?
Great question. The first question I would ask if you're a small business owner is, when people think of getting a value to their business or having a consultant come in, a lot of times the ideas are generated in their mind of those big 6 firms, which are now big 4 firms, of these huge consultants that are charging billions of dollars an hour and that kind of a thing. Do realize there are more people like me out there who are a smaller level consultant that want to come in and yeah, it's my business, but it's my passion. This is something. So when we say consultant, that's the first thing I want to do is to say, all right, take a deep breath when you hear that word and don't immediately consider it somebody charging you $400 an hour to come and analyze your business. That's not what they all do. Consultant just means I'm working for myself and I am coming in as an outside observer and a second set of eyes. So first I wanted to demystify the word consultant. Second, as we go in, the value it provides for a business to be able to have a consultant come in is this objectification, this looking at things without the emotions. People don't often give themselves enough credit that business decisions are very emotional. People will keep people on out of a loyalty rather than it being a good decision. I have one business which I consult with on a monthly basis, and I really like them as people. They're good people. It's an all women run business. But we've been getting into these numbers for a couple of years now. And with the pandemic, and I'm sure some of your listeners can really relate, the pandemic did a number on their business. They just, in the particular field that they are in, it's just never bounced back. And yet they have a lot of the same habits they had from previous to the pandemic, similar spending habits and similar employment structure. So we've talked for a while, and they kept saying, oh, things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. And I recommend doing an annual, you should do a monthly review. I go in to them and every month I'll reconcile and we'll look at how the month went and how we're trending for the year. But then once a year to have a forward planning session with somebody that comes in from the outside and say, all right, let's be honest with the habits and planning and the work that you're doing and where it's possible for you to cut. And as soon as you talk to somebody about, all right, you're not making the money you want, you're going to have to either cut your expenses or increase your income. And people sometimes the income will come later. Once you have at least a year or two trending data, you can sit there from an outside perspective. This is the consultant to say, I know you don't want the numbers to be this, but these are what the numbers are. So as Einstein said, something about insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
Yes.
If they keep doing the same thing, they're going to keep getting the same result. So if they want their numbers to change, they need to change something. And so a lot of times we'll talk about, all right, what is the reality of X, Y, and Z to try to push the income? And then realizing that some things, because of COVID, some things have changed permanently, and at least for the time being. So some small businesses have been positively affected. Some small businesses have been negatively affected, and they keep thinking and waiting for the numbers to get back to the pre-COVID level. And unfortunately, things like people have moved, and certain demographics have changed, or people's habits have completely changed, or their spending habits have changed to the point where these small businesses are just not seeing the numbers they did previously. So, all right, if you can only realistically look at getting your income back to a certain level, let's talk about what it's going to take your expenses down. This is where people get grabby. They don't want to. They don't want to let go of their, mocha coffee machine thing that everybody loves, they don't want to get rid of that extra office staff person in the front because she's so sweet.
Yeah.
And we're having that external person come in and say, it's your business, but you have to realize you're living with the numbers and you have to live with the tough choice. If you want to see this number change, you need to take some changes inside. And this is where, as a person that doesn't work for them, I don't go to work every day and see Josephine sitting here twiddling her thumbs, doing nothing but getting paid to look on her phone. But we just can't fire Josephine because, she's been with us for 20 years. I can come in from the outside and say, Josephine is not a benefit added to your business. And you only need 2 staff members in the front. And if you did that, you could take that entire savings of her annual salary, and that would be a bump to your business. And I can say that without emotional trepidation. They may not want to hear it, and they may not even change their minds, and that's their choice. But a lot of times it gives them that outside perspective that's less emotionally tied to some of the decisions.
That value add that you bring by being a partner that's on the outside could be a solution that adds tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars back into their business as profit. So your value is not, let's say, a one-to-one. You pay me this much, you get this much, but you literally are bringing insight and a perspective to them that is exponentially valuable. And it really is up to them whether or not they move forward with it. Everything that you said reminds me of being a financial coach for personal money management. It sounds like it's so similar on the business end too, because there's so many emotions tied to it. So as a financial coach, I come in as an outside perspective on their money and how they are budgeting, if they're budgeting, right? And what are their expenses and what can they cut out so that they achieve the goal that they want to with their personal finances. And you're looking at their business and evaluating their assets and liabilities, how they're spending, but also looking at their business goals and saying, okay, well, if you just changed X, Y, and Z, you could actually achieve those business goals or get closer to those goals. I love to hear what are the responses that they give you, especially the recurring clients that you mentioned that you have.
I hear a variety of responses based on where they are in that moment. And that would be some caution I give to your listeners. When you get news about what you're not doing in your business or what you could change in your business, just be kind to yourself. Realize in the moment you will feel defensive. In the moment, unless they come in with these glorious tales about how you are just hand over fist in money and oh my goodness, just look at this, which most people, that's not their reality. Most people get defensive. This is my baby. This is my business. This is what you're telling me I should do it differently? What do you mean? That emotion is very normal. Reason I cautioned you on that is that doesn't mean that what the person is telling you is wrong. That person could be telling you absolutely the right things, like you have, Feluke, with your experience telling people, you make a goal, here's how you can achieve it. It's going to be uncomfortable because they have to change some habits. And this is the same in a small business, especially. The larger a business gets, the less personal the habits are. And that's why I like working with small businesses, but that's why they tend to mirror and mimic personal finances so much, is that they have person like that because the owner's influence is really felt through the whole organization so much when you are a small business.
Heather, when you consult with these clients, especially the ones that are recurring clients, and you give them the news about what you are seeing with their finances for their business, what is the response that they give you?
A lot of times it is defensiveness. You will get an immediate reaction of somebody saying, but it's very uncomfortable for someone to tell you to do something different. It really is. And it's hard to hear that. A lot of times I'll tell my listeners it's the Oreo approach, which is where I start with, hey, this is something you're doing well, which is the top of the cookie. And then I'll tell them the middle of the cookie, but you need to change this. And then I'll finish with the bottom of the cookie and say, but these things are really good. People tend to eat it better that way. So that's just a little deliverance and feedback and approach I would suggest for people. But it's true. I have to sometimes really emphasize, hey, you know what? I noticed that since last month, you have cut your expenses down for this area. And I think that's great because you and I have been working on ways to streamline your expenses for the office. I also noticed that you have not taken to heart the fact that you are way overstaffed. And of course, I wouldn't say it quite that way. I would use a lot more technical term, not technical, but like factual terms. To say somebody's overstaffed is to say something that's more of less empirical and more emotional. And I try when I'm delivering difficult information that somebody doesn't want to change or hear, I try to have it be more factual. That's just a little advice for people when they're conveying this kind of information to say, or staff of 3 people in the front office, your staff of 10 people doing this job, your staff of 20 people in this section of the warehouse is really a job for 17 people in this section of the warehouse. And you have enough downtime that there's always about 3 people in this section of the warehouse that are on their phones, that are busy just cleaning up and talking to their friends. And by an outside consultant coming in and looking at habits and patterns and trends that the people inside the business are used to being a part of, they don't notice that there's always at least 3 people in this section of the warehouse with nothing to do. Now, by us coming in externally, seeing this, then conveying the information, the person on the other side that owns a small business, they just don't see the numbers like, oh, there's 3 people. That's easy math. I'll just get rid of 3 people. We will only have a 17 in that section of the warehouse. Instead, it's, but that's Joe and Frank and Bill and Sarah and Gwen, and they have families. And this defensiveness is usually from a good place.
Yeah.
It's coming from people trying to protect their employees or concerned, what if we get a big surge and we need them for that one moment of time? But the reality is that then the rest of your employees will step up and you'll be fine. And oftentimes it's not that the small business owner disagrees with the feedback, but most often it's uncomfortable to receive information on change, right? Change is hard. It's hard to receive the information on the change. It's hard to implement the information on the change because it either means changing a habit, like spending less in this area, or buying less of this, or saying no to so and so. And at the same time, they are very much involved with the personal aspect that is involved. And that personal aspect means they care about the people.
Yeah.
So it's coming from a good place, but the resistance that a small business owner has is usually based in not wanting to change when change is really the best benefit for their business.
I heard a business owner say something to his employees that I have actually taken to heart in my personal life and also while running my business. And that is this notion that to be dishonest is to be unkind, is to be unloving. And too often we are dishonest with ourselves about the factual numbers. We're dishonest with our employees as to the expectation. You're hired here to produce this number or to do this X, Y, and Z. And if we're not honest with them, if we're not honest with ourselves, first of all, right, that they're not meeting whatever the protocol is, if they're in sales or the productivity numbers, if they're in operations, if we're not honest with ourselves as to what the expectation is, what did I ask them to do? Are they meeting it or not meeting it? Then we can't be honest with them and say, this is your performance. Then we can't be loving because the loving thing to do is to be honest and kind to them and say, you are underperforming. The business is expecting X, Y, and Z, and you're not doing it. So then other things start coming up, right? The business owner starts, having these feelings because it's a conflict in emotions. I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z. I need to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not doing it. And that's where stress and anxiety comes from. And guess what? Just like children, feed off of parents' emotions when we have conflicting priorities and we're not doing what it is that we said we're going to do. The employees feed off of and feel those emotions, our anxiety, the stress in the environment. You're not doing them a favor by being dishonest. You're actually being unloving towards them and their families, not allowing them to seek employment elsewhere where they can be productive, where they can increase their value, increase their knowledge, face the fact that they are not performing the way that they should. What do you think about that framework?
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. You are 100% correct. These are difficult conversations, but they're not bad conversations, right? Sometimes godly love is tough love.
Yes.
It's oftentimes the growth times that we turn to God the most and say, I do not like this, but I know it's for the best. So you're right. It is sometimes that godly love is a tough love, and making some of the business decisions. And that's why people say, well, it's just business. I think that's a way of people being able to say, I need to get in a framework of looking at this business objectively and what's right for this business. And it's not to depersonalize it. Sometimes it's to really personalize it and say, what's good for this business is maybe for you to move on, or for you to learn how to live with less, or for you to adjust the schedule. You guys were able to be working together in another format pre-COVID, and we now have to switch things up and do things very different now in order to meet the needs of the clients that are out there, or the people, whoever our customers are. That is really not comfortable. Doing something different is uncomfortable. And in my mind, I'm thinking the good Lord is up there saying, but the growth is in the discomfort.
That is the truth. There's a Bible verse, I'm sure it's in Proverbs, and it comes up a few other times in the Bible. A father who hates his son does not discipline him, but a parent who loves their child disciplines them because they see that this child will be better for the discomfort, better for the change. They will actually learn from the discipline, the consequences of their actions. You did X, this is the result. They will learn from that versus you treating them like they're weak. You can't do better. You can't improve. So I will continue to, treat you this way. That is, again, the opposite of loving. But it's so hard because we don't want people to be uncomfortable. We know it's going to be uncomfortable. We know it's going to take some work for them to do something differently. And we also know it's going to take some work for us as business owners to have that conversation in a way that's loving and compassionate. We have to do better. We have to find the right words. We have to sit with our own emotions. We have to work on it. How do you work on that? How do you sit with, because you've been doing it for years. So I know it's automatic for you now. But in the beginning, when you needed to have those conversations with these business owners, and before you thought about the sandwich conversation, right? Sandwiching the good news, not so good news, great news. How did you prepare yourself to speak in a loving way that they would receive it?
Great question. The main thing that has helped me to speak in a loving way so that they would really absorb what I'm saying is to remind them in the very beginning of the conversation that we are aligned in the same goal. We are aligned in the same perspective, process. We both want not just even generally what's best for this business, but specifically what goals they have set up. And that sometimes, because don't you often find that people will make mistakes when their vision is either too short-sighted? Most often it's too short-sighted, right? So the first thing to do in having a small business owner be receptive to information that will involve change to better their business is to start by saying, let's remember the focus that you mentioned you wanted. You wanted to grow your business, or you wanted to have less stress in this workplace. You wanted to make your bottom line go from red to black. Whatever the goal is, because then they realize I'm working with you on what you want. I think they forget that. Otherwise, they see you as the enemy. Isn't that the same way with God, right? We see him like he's punishing us. Like, why are you doing this to me? But instead, the Lord is like, no, your eternal salvation is what we both want. That's the same way with businesses. I see it that same way. Like so-and-so, hey, we both want the culture in this company to be X, Y, and Z. You came to me because it was off what you wanted. And it can be either the people side of the business, the number side of the business, or the structure of the business. It could be any of those things that are off, right? Why they're coming and asking for help. And if you come and say, let's remember where you wanted this to end up. And then they are in line with, you're right. You're right. I really want less stress in this office. You're right. I really want to not be in the red every month. You're right. I really need to wrap up my business and create it so I can pass it on to my son. Like whatever the business goal is, if you remind them of that goal, you're right. Therefore, this temporary discomfort of accomplishing these goals, this is worth the long-term accomplishment of the big goal. And that's really what everything is about.
That is awesome. I want you to talk to the business owners and give them some tips as far as managing their books. What are some things that you found that most business owners need to either do or stop doing in regards to organizing their business finances and managing their books, either for tax season or anything else?
For a small business owner to manage their books, the first thing is not to be scared of them. A lot of times people don't want to because they don't want to see what the end result is. Be kind to yourself and just be okay with being consistently accountable to yourself. So that's the first thing. Don't be afraid of it, because too often people will be afraid of, if I look at my books, I'm going to find out that I'm not doing something perfectly. No, you're not doing something perfectly, and that's okay. So the more that they can expect within themselves, you're not going to be the world's perfect business. It's fine. That's fine. Let's get the dirty mucky on the paper. So that's the first step. Then I use QuickBooks. QuickBooks, either desktop or online, are the platform that's fairly standard in the industry nowadays for small business accounting. And it's something that you can easily use. You may just use spreadsheets, and that's fine too. But whatever it is that you employ, other people use Quicken. I'm not here to promote any particular line of software, but you find one that you're comfortable working with, and then commit to yourself to do a monthly download. I find it's best if an employer is able to set aside a time that is good. Some people, it's Thursday night, I stop my clients coming at 4, and from 4 to 6, I do my business. I work on the business part of the business aspect of the business every Thursday night from 4 to 6. Make a date with yourself. Put it in your planner. Have a time. If it's a consistent time, it tends to get done. If you say eventually you're going to get to it, you won't get to it. So do a commitment. That's where sometimes it's okay. Self-confession. I am a really horrible house cleaner. I really am. I am bad at cleaning my house. My husband will agree. So therefore, I have always worked and hired a house cleaner. And doggone it, if the night before that house cleaner shows up, am I not running around straightening things and getting things and washing the shoes and doing the thing?
Heather, are you one of those people that cleans your house before the house cleaner comes?
I organize my house before the house cleaner comes. I have to, otherwise I'm not going to find anything, because they put things in piles and I can't find what's in the pile. So I have to undo the piles before they come. I have to straighten and put things places so I know where to find them when she's done cleaning. But if she didn't come, I would not do that preparation work to make her cleaning efficient and organized. And then for me to walk in when she's done cleaning and be like, oh, glory be, a clean house. And I can find everything.
Right. That part.
I say that as an analogy to my bookkeeping advice for small businesses. By making an appointment with yourself, and if you need to, having an external person come in once a month, once a quarter, to look at your books, and you're then giving yourself a time structure that you will then have to stick to put your books on paper. So like I said, the most basic thing would be to employ a spreadsheet. From there, you could go into a simple software. accounting software. You then take your credit card spending that you've done for the month. It goes into this vehicle. You take your bank information that is to do with your business. You put this in your vehicle. If you're really to make things streamlined, I recommend you have your business credit cards be separate from your personal credit cards, or that you're disciplined. And when, and it's always better if you can have two credit cards, have a personal and a business. It'll just make your life easier. So, everything on this then goes straight into your books, and a business account and your personal account. So everything in the business checking account and savings account goes into your business. And then every month when those statements come in, you reconcile. So you make sure everything is brought into whatever format you're using. And then you say, yes, look, my books are updated. I have everything in one place that shows what I've spent and the income that I have received. And by making a date with yourself and doing it monthly, because those statements, they come every month, and boy, that's a great reminder, then you can get to the end of your year and you're not overwhelmed. Too often people look at this stack of receipts and they want to cry and bury their head in them. So doing it on a regular basis, whether it's you disciplining yourself as a small business owner and or having a third person come in and check your books. So whether that third person comes in and brings all the information into the vehicle. So some people, I'll show up, they'll hand me the password to you'd be amazed. The people are like, here's the password to my booking stuff. Just do it all for me. Okay. All the way up to people who are like, no, this is my booking stuff. I can't let anyone else touch it, but you can take a peek. Like, people's control, the sense that they need to have control over the money varies according to their personality. Either way, having someone else either import it all and then, or all the way to the business owner has taken care of it and you've had me or someone else come in and make sure it was done correctly. That structure, you get to the end of the year, you then have the month of January to review, look over everything, make sure what you did every month was correct. You were looking in January, if you have 1099s that need to come out, those are due by the end of January. A 1099 is a form that needs to go to the government. That's if you have paid a contractor more than $600. If they are an individual contractor, then when you have worked with them, you should have gotten their information, which is on a U9 form. Your listeners can email me if they have questions and I can send what the structure of those forms are. Don't be overwhelmed by them. It's very simple. Then by January, you have then end of January, you've sent all your 1099s out. You can check that box for the government. And then if you are an S, means the way that you're filing your taxes, the way that you say here in California, if you file your taxes as like an LLC, as an S Corp, well, by March 15th, you have a deadline. By that deadline, you need to have all your things in because you have to pay to the state for, you have a certain amount you need to pay to the state. So you have these kind of checkpoints. And then, of course, everybody knows April 15th. But it's not overwhelming if every month you're on top of things. And you then hit these marks and say, I'm good. Look. Oh, whoops, this should go in this category. Look. I used my personal credit card for this accidentally. I'm going to bring it in. Look. Oh, we're done. That's the way I would recommend for a small business owner to keep on top of everything and not be overwhelmed by the enormity of everything.
Love it. Very simple. I want you to talk I want you to talk to the entrepreneurial side. You being an entrepreneur yourself, how is it that you manage your business? If you're talking about running a successful consulting company, for those who are interested in turning what they love, maybe they're in the same situation that you were in when you started, the convenience of consulting versus working in corporate America. What would you say are some key things about running your own business that you've enjoyed or that you would do differently?
To manage your own small business, especially a consulting business, you need to have a personality that is all right with creating your own structure and be honest with yourself. Some people thrive under somebody else's structural direction. Some people, my kids, with 4 kids, I have 4 completely different personalities that I've seen grow up in my household. And then you add on top of that my personality and my husband's, and I realize it's not one way that's right or wrong, but certain structures really bring out the best in people. As a consultant, I need to be okay with waking up and creating a structure for my day, going through my list of all of my clients and making sure I know where they all stand, knowing that sometimes I need to initiate out to them, and I'm not waiting for somebody to communicate with me about their needs. I need to be an initiator. I need to be structurally organized in my mind. I need to be okay with the fact that it doesn't turn on at 8 in the morning and turn off at 5. Being a consultant, you are much more engaged with people on this continual loop. That's okay with me. But I have met many people that really is difficult for them. And they thrive much better in an office where they go and check in, do their work, check out, and leave it behind. If that's you, that's great. But I would not recommend to be a consultant for you, because that is something for me, I have noticed. I have folder after folder after folder with these clients. In order to manage certain clients, I have some that I check in with every single morning. And those ones I have like on a list that I have to review all the time. And sometimes I will check in with a client and check those emails that come in from that one client group. And it may be there's nothing I need to do with them that day. And this is the next morning at 8 in the morning, I may check in with that client and I have a laundry list that I need to do with that client that day. You need to be okay with having an unpredictable day and an unpredictable schedule, because as a consultant for other people, their needs are what is driving your day. So it's a bit of a personality thing that you need to be okay with. I found that I'm okay with that, and I kind of thrive under the unpredictability blanket or umbrella, whichever you'd want to call it. And I also, so that's the challenging part. But the plus part is I also really enjoy, I'm working. And then you know what? I have a break for a little bit and I'm going to go take my dog for a walk. It's a beautiful day. And from 12 to 2, I'm going off and he and I are on a walk and we're getting a sandwich. And then later that night at 4 o'clock, I get this hurried email. We need to reconcile these things. And oh my gosh, I have a presentation tomorrow morning. Well, next thing you know, I go and we have family time and we'll do dinner and all that. And my kid goes to bed and I'm up till midnight finishing everything. But I don't, this really works for me. And having that ebb and flow is something you have to be really okay with as running your own consulting business. And don't expect it any different. As far as the nuts and bolts of running it, I use my calendar, my Google Calendar, like I would not survive without it at all. I log all of my hours. You have to have a way that you're happy and comfortable logging your hours, because every client, some days I have 15 minutes with this person, 2.5 hours, and I have to itemize everything that I'm doing. I have to then pull that in at the end of the month, and I do my separate billing for each of these clients. Again, this is all on me. You have to be self-driven to be able to check these boxes, but utilize a lot of technology, because the technology is out there with calendaring organizational systems to be able to keep all your bookings and your billings separated. Different email inboxes that you can use to keep your clients' information separate. I try to never mix, I have my personal email over here and I have my work email over here. Things like that are the practical nuts and bolts of it, to try and keep, when you've turned your brain on to work, you open your work email and you're able to categorize by certain clients, and they all have their own folders, and you try your best to not merge those two, because it is easy to have a consultant's life take over your life. And so the only way for you to turn it off, like you would walk out of a business, turn off the lights at 5 o'clock and go home, The way that I help do that when it's family time here at home, honestly, is to close that email box. When I've closed that inbox for my email, that's my way of shutting down. Like I said, it may not be shutting down for the night, but it means that I'm shutting off that part of my brain and I am fully focusing on dinner time with my kids, watching a show with my husband, doing things that are family related. And then if I know that I have something I need to do that needs to be done before 8 in the morning the next morning, I'll put it on my calendar after I know that my youngest goes to bed, and then I will pop it up. But I'm a late night person, so I can function well at night. It'll pop up on my phone with a reminder, and then I'll get in and I will then open that email back up, and it's like it turns my brain back on to work. And then I can focus on what I need to focus on. So that helps me to be able to kind of, that's my kind of indicator to myself to turn on and off my work life as it's integrated into my real life.
Now, Heather, you literally just helped us segue right into balance, balancing work and life. From what I'm hearing from you, it's not always even. It's not a set time for every single thing, but you've created a routine so that you know and your kids know and your husband knows when you're working and when you're not. So they know when they get your full attention. And I'm going to bring you back to something you said at the very beginning, which is that you treat your children like clients. Tell us, how is it that you juggle work and raising kids, and with an emphasis on treating your family like clients?
Well, my clients get time on my books. And I realized early on, if I did not put my kids with time in my books, I kept waiting for time to happen. And I have 4 kids that have different needs as far as time and structure, and they have different ways of saying it. I have my oldest who, if he needs something, he'll say it. And then I have one of my twins who, if she needs something, she'll just quietly look at me. Well, you can't definitely say, oh, I'm going to wait for my kids to say what they need and then I'll meet their needs. That's not respectful of them. So what I end up doing is putting time in my calendar for my kids like I would they were clients. I've started that when I was transitioning, when I had the 4th child and I was transitioning to a larger client base. And I realized that my 4th was not getting the attention. He was being cared for, but not attended to. I just felt like he and I didn't have the connection that I had with my other 3 kids. And so I put a little reminder in my calendar. Every Thursday is time with him. And that mommy time was sacred. That was special to me and still is, where I will say, this is our time to do what we want. And it's usually, all right, I have teenage boys. Well, I have one teenage boy now, but my oldest, who's now 25, when he was a teenager, it was the same thing. I had time that he and I would spend together. Boys love to be fed. Oh my goodness. So I would turn off my brain with work. I would schedule time like he was a client, because if I'm dealing with you as a client, I'm also not dealing with 3 other clients. That's disrespectful to you. And I wouldn't be able to ethically charge you for my full rate, right? If I'm charging you my full rate, you're getting my full attention. So if my child is my client, that's the same thing. I am not talking to him while also working. No, he's getting my full attention. Now, like I said, as kids, they were more willing to do whatever I wanted. As teenagers, they really love to eat. So it usually involves watching a show with him or listening to an audiobook with him while we're eating food. You know what? We chat. It's fun. It doesn't take more than an hour once a week, but it's really strong for me. I hear his stories. I get a sense for how things are going in the tone of his voice, because I don't know about other moms, but for me, I can be there and not present, right? I can be doing other things and be like, aha, how was your day? And my brain is thinking, I wonder if I got that, stuff to this other client. I wonder if I made this up. And if that's the case, I'm really not present with my child. So I have had to structure time with them so that when I say, how are you doing? I'm really listening. I'm really listening. How are you doing? Like I'm taking my lunchtime break with you. Even maybe it's after school, say if it's 3 in the afternoon. But I'm like, I want to know how you really are. And if I'm not thinking of anyone else, but you are my client for this next hour, it's my full undivided attention. By doing that, I get that tone in their voice. How are they really doing? And you don't get it any other way, not if you're divided in 5 different ways. Now, I say that knowing that when I had the 4 kids at home, it was very difficult to have undivided attention to each person. But when I had the 4 kids at home, that was when I also took my oldest son, and he and I would go and do things together. And that's when I started to realize that boys always love to eat. There's no time he would not say yes to food. It would be this time, and it's like he would store up everything he was thinking and had questions on, because he knew that Thursdays after school was our time together. It's like he looked forward and planned for it like I would plan for a meeting with a client. I started noticing him planning for it. Like he's like, oh, I have questions about this, but we can talk about it on Thursday. Like, and so by having these dates or these meetings, and it's not a meeting where I'm sitting down talking to him. Literally, we are in sweats, hanging out, watching Saturday Night Live together, whatever, for his 45 minutes of time until right now he's like, okay, whatever, mom. It's this time when he is also able to put all of his stuff in. I have found that really helps me have that balance. I feel like I've truly checked in with my kid, and then I'm monitoring things. Another thing that I have done is I have tried to make time for vacations to be like this sacred time. I had a lot of times where I was doing working vacations, and that really, I regret looking back and saying, I should never have done that. I should have just said, when I'm off, when I'm going to go take a week vacation with my family, that is my time off. And I needed to just push back against everybody. And now that was, when I first started working. Now I'm a lot more selfish. And I say, I'm out of here, guys. I'll see you in 7 days. And unless the world is imploding, do not contact me. This is time with my family. So I take my vacation time a lot more, hold it sacred a lot more than I did before too.
Love that word, sacred. And I'm pretty sure that your children feel it too. They feel important and they feel loved because you literally have been intentional to spend that time with them, to be present when you spend the time with them, and to hear their hearts, to hear what it is that they're not saying. One thing that you touched on that is impacting me too is you don't have to wait for your child to speak and say, I need attention. Some of them will, the different personalities, right? Some of them will say, hey, mom, I need your attention. I need to talk to you. But to have that daughter that just looks at you and you're supposed to know what that look means is just as valuable, that you don't tell her, hey, you have to use your words and speak. This is how I want you to speak to me. You just understand and show love to her by meeting her where she is, by seeing that this is how she communicates and going to her instead of demanding that she or any of the other children meet you where you are. You have pivoted, you have transitioned from working at Disney to successfully working for yourself as a consultant. I have enjoyed our conversation today, Heather, talking about books and how to manage your books, talking about business, what it's like being an entrepreneur and running a successful business, and also what it's like being a successful parent, managing a household and balancing all that comes together with that. You have a joy about you that I'm sure your clients feel, the compassion and the love in which you communicate and manage their book of business. So before we close out, what is it that you would like our listeners and viewers to do after watching this episode?
I want them to not be afraid of their books and not be afraid if they feel like they want to have a family and be in the workforce, to think that they can't do it is wrong. If you feel pulled to be a working mom and the good Lord knows that you are a somebody who can be benefiting people in the workplace and benefiting your family at home, he will help you make that work. Rely on him, trust him, ask him for guidance, ask him for help. I never thought when I first got my MBA and started working in the big companies that I would end up working as a consultant for small companies. Who knew that would, like, I did not, Lord really was a part of this journey the whole time. And anytime I would feel out of balance with my family and work, I would go to the Lord and say, you are my priority. My family is my priority. I want to be true to them and also use these God-given gifts that you've given me to benefit others and to benefit my family financially. Lord, help me to not shy away from any of these gifts you've given me. And I feel 100% that the Lord has stepped in every single time. So embrace those challenges and ask Him to walk with you on that. That is such a blessing. And then if you need help as a small business owner, or if you don't have someone helping you with your books, don't try to be the person that does it all. You started a business because you were good at doing whatever you're doing, not because you necessarily felt like opening a business. So if you want to hire, if running the business part of your business is not your strength or your forte, or like every wise business owner should, you should have someone else come in and help look at the books and help either take over, take care, or at least observe your books on a regular basis to make sure you're doing it right, or to just take that burden off of you so you can do what you do best. Whether that's me or someone else, employ others to fill the gaps in so your energy is going to where you can take your strengths and propel them into profit.
I think that is so wise. And I'm going to reiterate something that you said in all of your points, actually. And that's the importance of separating the two. Separating your two emails, your personal, your work. Separating the time when you're with your kids or when you're working. Separating your financial accounts, your business checking account and all of those numbers, your business credit cards and debit cards from your personal. And separating your personal financial management from your business financial management. Money is money, but it's not the same money. And
Right. Your goal for your business may be very different than your goal for your personal life. Your goal for your business might be just to make ends meet and do a service for your community, and then your business and your personal financial goal might be to be a multi-billionaire. Or reverse, you might want this hugely profitable business, but you really don't care about having cash in the bank. It's okay to have two very different goals, but you should not ignore one for the other. Be clear about what your business goal is. Be clear about what your personal financial goal is.
And as beneficial as a consultant is for your business, consider getting a consultant for your personal finance as well. It's good to have that outside objective, and we are not here to tell you you're wrong. We're here to support your goals, the goals that you set for yourself, for your business, or for your personal finance. So take that next step. Reach out to Heather if you are a small business owner, 1 to 500 employees, and you need that outside perspective on your business finance, whether you want her to take a peek or you want her to put it all together for you and wrap it in a bow. And reach out
I
to
love it.
me if you want that outside perspective on your personal finance to help you achieve the goals that you desire for yourself and for your family. Is there anything, as you're thinking right now, is there anything that you wish you had said?
With juggling my family and work, and juggling's not the right word. I mean, they both bless my life so much. God blesses my life, my family blesses my life, and work has blessed my life. And I say that in that order specifically because it really is the hierarchy. Just like we have financial bank accounts and your business bank account, you'll have a clearer aspect of your business if you have separated your business bank account with your personal bank account. Okay. You know that kind of intuitively. And sometimes it's a step for people to do, but that way you really can see your money clearer. You know what? I'm also going to say, so that's the practical aspect of running your own business. Whether it is your own consulting business or anything else, you really need to separate some of those bank accounts. It also reminds me that with kids running the family, think of it like emotional bank accounts, right? If you spend all day and you give your everything to your work, and then your family gets nothing, it's like putting all your money in your business bank account and then your home bank account has nothing. You don't want that, right? At the end of the day, you don't want your business to be thriving, but your home bank account have barely enough money to pay the mortgage. Like, you wouldn't do that. That's crazy. You need to share, you need to balance. You know, in a logical left brain sense, that that's not the way to run your life, right? Or if you are running your life that way, you should change, in my opinion, and have some equity in your home personal bank account as well as in your finances. Look at it emotionally with your work-life balance, like emotional bank accounts as well. If you are spending all of your emotion, time, energy, the best of who you are, and you're spending all of that on your work and your family, your church calling, your other aspects, your community part of your life, if they're getting pittance because 90% of all of who the best of you goes to work, that's not balance. That's not happiness. And that's not the way good Lord wanted you to spend your time and talents. Think of it like an emotional bank account. Your kids have their own emotional bank account, relational account with you. And you pay it into them when you're spending time. You pay into the emotional relationship bank account between, like, think of it like a relationship bank account. You're paying in when you're driving them to school and you turn off the radio and you make them get off their phone and you guys have 5 minutes of chit chat together. And the next thing you know, you find out that they're nervous about a math test that day. And then when you pick them up or when they walk in the door and you go replay in your mind and the first thing out of your mouth is, hey, do you want some lemonade? How'd your math test go? Boom, your kid knows that they were important. But what if they walk in that door and you're on the computer typing, you're like, yo, see you in a couple hours. How important do they feel? It's the emotional bank account. So think of it like you are investing in their relationship. Did I just say something that takes more than a few minutes? No, it's the same drive to school. It's the same few minutes when they're walking in the door. It takes pittance for you to carve out the time, and it's just dedicated to them, especially if you have teenagers and young adults. My goodness, they know if your brain is on something else. And they know if you say to get off their phone, that you want them off their phone, you better get off your phone if they're going to have the time together with you. Absolutely. And when you do, you're filling that emotional relationship bank account so that later when they are struggling, when they have tough decisions, they can draw from that and maybe they will come to you when they have a question that's really life dependent. What about if they're depressed? What if they have a friend who's really struggling with the real life choices that are bad or could change their life? Is your relationship bank account full enough that they can make a withdrawal? Think of it like that. You have got to take energy. And sometimes it's not even more time. It's just intention. Right. Be intentional about your relationship with your kids. They are not the side thing that's just happening while you're focusing on your business or focusing on your this or focusing on your that. They're not the side thing. Be intentional. And with your husband and your relationship with them too. Be intentional that they get the best of you as well. And you will find that it will refuel you to have more energy to be able to keep running your own business.
That is conviction. For those who needed to be convicted, of your parenting. Take that with all the gentleness and kindness and love in which it was communicated, because we can all do better. Thank you for spending time with me and Heather. If something in today's conversation spoke to you, don't just listen. Take one action, one small step, one seed planted, because that's how transformation begins. I am Auntie Foluke with Hand in Hand Consulting. Today, plan tomorrow.